Hello all, Dr. Fox back here with you. I had to share today. First off, happy birthday, Bugs Bunny. I just had to share something. He's always inspired me from everything that I've accomplished in my life, and just to share my short story of how much joy he's brought to me and to many others, and to me and my brother, and inspired us in so many ways. I just had to share this story. And to be honest, we have to go back to the early 70s when Looney Tunes was on for reruns, and we had this large television that sat on the ground, not like these nice LEDs that people have now, but and they had really large tubes inside them. And we didn't get to sit at the in the carpet. We had this really thick carpet. It was really comfy. We used to hang out there Friday nights really late, and we'd catch like Yogi's Treasure Hunt, and I remember some of the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera and Pawpaws. And anyway, I'm gonna go off because I'm gonna do that quite often, so bear with me on this. I just hope you come along for this entertaining little journey. And I just had to share. It was just, it really got me inspired. And so we used to try to stay on, we try to come out, but sadly it was a hit or miss for Saturday morning cartoons, because we not only had that, but after a while we did finally get this little tiny black and white television that we got to use in our bedroom. And I remember waking up on a Saturday morning and enjoying Rocky and Bullwinkle, and my inspiration for that came from, that's a whole nother story, because that's kind of also what got me into radio as well, because we actually had a show called Rockin' Rick and the Cool Winkle Breakfast Show, but and I did the hey, and then I can't quite do it now because I've had voice therapy, voice surgery too, but that's a whole other story. But it would lead into Looney Tunes, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Looney Tunes, and so many other great cartoons that I can only begin to talk about. But bear with me. So we would have that, and so sometimes I would look forward to Saturdays but loathe them, and I'll explain why. Because sadly, short time after that, and around that time frame, things were not going quite so well at the homestead. That's a whole nother story in itself. But it was we had to, so we get up in the morning and be all excited for cartoons, but at the same time we'd have to go out and cut wood, or we'd have to pull weeds, or clean the garden. Now I'm grateful now as an adult. Like they taught me many self-sufficient great things, as well as Bugs, of course. He brought so much inspiration to me. And when I caught him and seeing what this character brought, and it was years before I even knew it was connected to this amazing voice actor named Mel Blanc, and of course so many others I can only begin to talk about that we lost. We miss you, Mel. But this inspired me. I used to sit in my room weekdays with this really large radio and a little Mickey Mouse player. He's another whole character to discuss later, but or at another time as well. But I would use that, and I listened to radio for hours, and it would always inspire me. And I heard Dr. Demento, and it's just this spark and excitement got me completely addicted to it, in this form of love for art, and as including music as well. I mean, I went to school to study jazz and classical, and he just continued to inspire me. And I didn't see him as a fictional rabbit character. I mean, he's got his own star on Broadway. I wish I could have enough. No, it's all good. No, it's not about that. But that's more my comedic side coming out. And I did that for a while as well, and just the inspiration that brought me to doing radio, that I briefly touched on, brought me into the local New England circuit of radio and voiceover, and I began to be able to do voiceovers for Verizon and just local businesses. And yeah, I guarantee you that it was about 95% of the time, as Bugs would do, when he would be talking to y'all on the camera, break that fourth wall like I'm doing right now. And it just allowed me to not only be like a radio personality, but allowed me to work on my timing. He had inspired my timing. I had seen that so many times when I talked to other comedians or other individuals when I interview them, and just there's so much more. Like, I could talk for hours about Bugs, but this particular character inspired me in so many ways. And I know I have an RC car outside too. This other character, Sue Blue, as well. She did, but so many others that I can only begin to talk about, for hours. I'm trying to keep it focused so I don't stray too much, but I'm trying to give you kind of a better circle of kind of what's going on. I appreciate you kind of following along, or at least attempting to follow along in this story, because I know these could be cut up into segments and edited out as in whatever which way, but he inspired me in so many ways. I went on to do music, and I got, even in high school, it was challenging and difficult, because my own high school music teacher, and other students were like, "Oh, you won't amount to anything," and you're not really that good at it. And then you'd go and you'd get your scores, and you'd have like really bad scores. It's because I was still trying to understand rhythm and percussion at the time. I was just doing the best I could. But yet when we do a little concert, I seem to be right on par. I even two of the band members, we ended up forming our own small little band just for a short time. But then we quickly dissipated onto it, and that is what led to me just continuing to do artwork and many other variants that we did, especially with Moore. When she came around, she really inspired me to do more of the Explorer, not Dora the Explorer, but more of the Explorer. And we created these 13 little holiday shorts, and that came a bit later. But to try to just kind of stay on track, like all these parts is what did it. And then when I got to college, I actually went to college to be a musician. And we cut a demo tape on these things back then that many of the younger generation might not know anything about, other side from the handful of nerds and cultured individuals who have done their research and understand. Because I know I've had younger ones say, what's a CD, what's an 8-track, what's a record, aka vinyl, and many other variant words for it. But I continued to do that, and it wasn't about like being popular like him. It was just sharing my joy of art and seeing it in so many ways. And I always would celebrate it when someone would come up to me and share that, or when someone would draw a photograph. Like, I remember doing a small anniversary of More of the Explorer, and some individuals would send us art for that as well, and so much more. But then when we continued in college, I eventually went on to doing like music therapy, and then I switched over to therapy after that. But that's another story in itself as well. But at that time, we cut a cassette, and then we started sending it out, and we got to a point where it made it on some radio stations, and then they had the experimental charts and the jazz charts. We got Drum Inside Me made it to 88, I think it was, on the chart, and the experimental charts, I think we had another hit go to 66 many years later, when I came back to start doing more work, especially when I was in New York and traveling from Portland to New York and doing more work there between, I started dwindling into drag. A lot of my friends and family didn't even know I was doing any of this stuff, because I had to kind of keep it secret. Two of my gay friends that I knew back in the day, they were holding hands, and they were literally shot here in Portland, Maine. It was a very tough time for being in that circumstance, as well as someone who had a much deeper voice at the time. And then when you transition, it made it really difficult. A lot of voice companies that you get in touch with, they're like, well, you should use Jay, and you should, because at the time my voice still sounded a little deeper. I was like trying so hard to find this like female or androgynous kind of voice, and it was nice years later when more people were like, okay, I see that now. And you kind of learn how to do this thing we call tonality, in there, and just he inspired me in so many different ways, so many different pieces, especially, you know, when we see him in film and television shorts and specials and toys and so many parts. It's just like, for those that know me, I have quite a little collection, not as extensive as some amazing other collectors that I love celebrating as well, and just other artists, but I have so much to tell, and just so much to share in this positive way for this particular character. And so much of my past was such a big influence, especially many other drags that I spoke with and comedians. As I mentioned earlier, like, just the timing, you know, I hear that, I know we hear that quite often. And just so many other things I could talk about. And there was that inspiration that kind of kept me going for a while. And then sometimes you have to kind of help with family, and then life there kind of takes it away. And then I attempted to move to New York and LA and tried to do that whole circuit. And, you know, you get into this thing, and Bugs Bunny is well aware of sweeps. And, but of course he made it no problem. Or we could say a Daffy Duck reference maybe, but don't worry, we didn't forget about you, Daffy, as well. So, but you try to do that, and you get into sweeps, and then I did some reality work just to stay busy and be able to help get the message out there a little bit more, to be able to help share with other artists and other joy in it. And it made it difficult. I eventually moved away from that quite a bit as I settled down more and kind of went back to some basics that I was trying to do as well. And I was trying to help raise a few families from my past as well. And that's a whole nother story as well. Trying to get my rights back for my book. Anyway, I'd say I did a book too. I was trying to do that, and then we integrated, and that's what led to interacting with a few individuals for Simpsons for season 20 and 22. And there was a little bit there, and then we did reality television, and then, like I was mentioning with Sweep, sometimes some things don't make it on television, and so you end up getting these little parts cut. And then the RuPaul's Drag Race, we did that, a couple of small cameos of moments, and I don't know, I've heard that they cut those. I've tried to go back to look for them, those parts, but you know. And then many years later, you have some horrible fans and like, oh, you're nothing. I'm like, it's not about being famous or anything. It was just to be able to help get the word out and spread the joy of art, as I've said. And that's something that Mel and everybody that was, you know, from Chuck Jones to Tex Avery to, you know, so many others involved in there that made those pieces, Joan and so many others that made this happen. And I wanted to be part of that world, you know. I always wanted to, and it always made it struggling, you know, when you get just these little bit parts, and I never complained. I was very grateful for how far I had gotten, you know, and it'd been nice to be able to continue to kind of do a little bit of that. So I dabble in some of that in YouTube many years later, and it was really hard after automation kicked in. It made it really hard to stay in radio, and I tried to continue to still do some like local commercials. That didn't quite pan over well, and I was trying to build like a little studio as well, and I had to move a bunch of times for a long list of reasons, and that made it complicated. A lot of other life circumstances that came up that made it really complicated, so that way I can just keep all these individuals separate and really just celebrate the joy of Bugs, because I know it's not about me. It's always been about Bugs, and this is just an inspirational story I wanted to share about Bugs' character, and you know, hopefully you find this in joy and something to take away from it. If it inspired just one person, like I know it did with some other individuals in my past when I was younger. I did try to reach out to Mel at one point as well. I was so young, but it was hard. You're trying to use this old dial phone, and they're like, who are you trying to call? I wanted to say Ghostbusters. No. But you know, and to see the inspiration that this particular character brings from so many others. I'd love to hear your influences below, or share your videos if you wanted to. It just really inspired me it's been a long time. I haven't been able to be inspired for some time now, and just to re-celebrate his birthday over again, like each year when that comes up, it kind of inspires me a little bit. And something this year just made me want to inspire to tell a little bit of my backstory about this, and about this particular character, this individual, this you could say human being slash rabbit slash comedian slash so many other, just the many clothes of Bugs Bunny, if you will. And I have so much more I could say for hours. And it continued to inspire me in so many ways. It still does to this day, and I hope I can live on as long as I can. Happy, happy, happy birthday, Bugs Bunny. We love you, and we hope you live on with many of the other voice actors and characters that bring life and joy to you, as well as the animation side that helps bring life to you. And I hope we can see much, much more of you in your classic, and bring all your top hits and sayings and characters and mannerisms and just so many other parts of what brought you the joy. I just had to share this. I hope you all are having a functioning weekend, and I hope you can find the joy in that, and I hope you find this in good spirits. Just to share a little bit of that joy in this particular comedic actor. That's how I always saw him. And if I keep talking, I'm just going to start tearing up, because that emotion comes from, even if it's, some call it a fictional place, sometimes you just want to get lost in the fantasy and the joy of what that brought, because when you're trying to get outside the world of the chaos of life, it's nice to be able to come back and just kind of take a moment to do that, if you will. And it's made it a bit struggling. Like, see, is when I start to get a little more emotional sometimes, and then if someone kind of puts me on the spot for something, and I get kind of awkward, and I'm not quite as outgoing as I usually am. And when you get the negative people, or as we call it, the negative Nancy's, it makes it hard when you're trying to share joy, and they misinterpret that in so many negative ways that I don't want to get into, just so I can protect those other individuals out there. And so with that, I hope that this joy comes out there to you and others. And once again, Bugs Bunny, thank you for all the joy, love that you brought. And I hope we have many decades ahead to enjoy you, as well as your classics. I always will go back to your classics. I think I spent hours on MeTV Tunes with the Looney Tune block, as well as when I did on with Tune In With Me. And sending a shout out to you, Bill. And Toonie. And that inspired me too, with like just being able to do little comedic shorts like that with my little character Luna, the black cat character, and many other little parts that has brought that again. So once again, thank you again. Thanks for coming along. If you actually did make it all the way to the end, I appreciate that, because a lot of people are like, meh, and it's all good. I don't know, I don't mean it like that, but thank you again, Bugs, for everything that you brought me. Once again, happy 84th birthday this year. He's always going to be 33 years young, no, 33 years older than I, so that will give you an idea of where my birth is, because mine's coming up, actually, well, almost 33 years, because he's like about a week and a couple weeks or so away from, so he's kind of like the bigger brother. I guess 33, I guess you could almost say a dad I used to look up to as that as well, and it inspired me in the military, and so much more I'll probably forget to even speak about, but I could talk for hours. I'm going to try to wrap this up, try to keep it under 20 minutes of joy and so many other great memories. Share yours. Again, thank you. Happy birthday, Bugs. Happy 84th, and many more to come.